For lesson 1.6, Ready, Set, Go, the ready portion is really trying to break down the common difference, again, of an arithmetic sequence. So we're looking to add or subtract. So when you're looking through these, you want to try to figure out how can I add or subtract to get to the next number. For number 1, to go from 5 to 11 or 23 to 29, you're going to add 6. So 5 to 11, 6 more. So 11 plus 6 is 17. 17 plus 6 is 23. 23 plus 6 is 29. 29 plus 6 is 35. And our common difference is 6. I'm going to bounce around a little bit here because I know that number 4 is a big one. And it's a big one because we don't really mess with common denominators much. But this 8 over 3 is telling me that I need to find a way to put the other values into thirds as well. So if you refer back to back in the day, you knew that you could find a common denominator. Right now I've got a 2 over 1. If I want to turn that into a third, I would need to multiply the bottom by 3, which means that I need to multiply the top by 3. So whatever I do in the denominator, I also do in the numerator. So I can say that this 2 is actually 6 thirds and 0 thirds over here. So going from 8 thirds down to 6 thirds, I'm actually subtracting 2 in the numerator each time. So just to check that out, 4 thirds, 2 thirds, and yes, 0 thirds checks out. So the common difference is actually going to be 2 thirds. Number 6 is quite a bit of a challenge, actually. So if you look at it, there are 3 numbers that I need to get to before I get to negative 13. So I know that it's going to be a subtraction problem. I know that I'm going to be removing something. If I subtract 3 each time, I would get 0, negative 3, negative 6. That's not going to work. If I subtract 4 each time, I've got negative 1, negative 5, negative 9, and then negative 13. So sometimes it's a matter of playing around with, I know that I have to get to that number. What can I subtract? And in this case, your common difference would be negative 4. For the set portion, again, we're talking about an arithmetic sequence. So we're talking about adding or subtracting. For number 8, we start at 12 and then we start at 20 and go to 12. So we know that we are subtracting 8 each time. Well, if the second term is 20, the third term is 12, the fourth term has to be 4, and the fifth term would have to be negative 4. I continue to subtract 4 each time. And depending on how things are looking, we can set up the recursive function a little bit differently. So in this case, I'm going to just say that f of 2 equals 20, because that's the first term I was given. And then to find every step, I would take the step right before it and add a negative 8. So I'm going to subtract 8 each time. You could also define our f of 1 as 28, but I'm okay right now with f of 2 being identified as 20 and then everything else after that subtracting 8. For number 10, we are doing stuff with geometric sequences now. So we're looking at multiplying or dividing to get to the next number. So looking at our third term, we get 5. Our fourth term, we get 10, which tells me that I'm going to be multiplying instead of dividing. And I can, in fact, multiply by 2 to get each term, each next term. So the fifth term would be 20. The sixth term would be 40. I'm just going to continue multiplying by 2 each time. The first term that is given to us is the third term, actually, and it's 5. And to get our next term in the sequence, we'll take the previous one and multiply it by 2. Number 11, just as a bonus one here, it starts at 20 and then goes to 10. Whoa. So instead of multiplying, now we're going to be dividing by 2. So dividing 10 by 2 gives me 5. Dividing 5 by 2 gives me 5 over 2, or 2.5. So my recursive equation here, my recursive function, f of 2 will be 20. Again, that's the first term I'm given. And to find the next term, we're going to take the previous term and divide it by 2. The go portion of this is getting you to practice plugging in and substituting in values. So if you look here on number 14, we're trying to find two different answers. We know we want to find the fourth term and the first term. So f of 4 is going to equal 5 to the 4th power. And if you were to multiply that all the way out, you should end up getting 625. You also need to find the first term. Well, 5 to the 1st power is 5. Number 16. You're trying to find f of 3. So the third term, we'll take that -2 to the third. Now this negative hanging out in front here does not belong to the exponent. So how we can write this is -2 times 2 times 2, which would give me a -8. F of 0, -2 to the 0 power, would end up giving me a -1. Again, that negative is not associated with the exponent. It would be for number 15 because it's all in the parentheses there. For number 18, you're trying to find f of 5 and f of 0. So again, we're just plugging in those values and seeing what we can get from this explicit equation. So f of 5 would equal 3 plus 4 times 5 minus 1. Well, 3 plus 4 times 4 gives me 3 plus 16, which gives me 19. And I'm running out of room a little bit, but f of 0 equals 3 plus 4 times 0 minus 1. When I do that, I end up with 3 minus 4, which gives me a -1. Hopefully this helps. Reach out if you have any questions.